for having me here. Coming in my sophomore year, giving me a chance to be recruited. I just want to say, look, I'm committing to Texas.
There it is, the moment Jarrett Gibson committed to Coach Sark and the Texas Longhorns. This was Texas's big visit weekend, and boy, was it big. Five-star edge Colin Simmons was on campus for his official visit, and there was a major development that happened while he was on campus. We're going to talk about it, but first, let's bring on Gerry Hamilton of Inside Texas. Jerry, we just watched it. Running back coach Tashard Choice, he was very precise with his recruiting this cycle. Really only recruited two backs the entire cycle. Christian Clark, who he already landed, then Jarrett Gibson this weekend. What was it about these two backs and Texas's, desire to have them in this class?
Yeah, I think a couple of things there. They complement each other well. I mean, Christian Clark's going to be a bigger guy. Christian Clark's 5'11 and a half, about 200 now. He's going to be a 220-pound back. Jarrett Gibson's a stout, put together 5'10", 205-pound back right now. Jarrett, it's interesting because when you look at him, you would say, okay, Christian Clark is the guy who's going to drop his pads in between the tackles and really move chains, right? But Jarrett Gibson's a tremendous inside the tackles runner. He's got really good feet. He's got jump cut, skip cut, and he reads the backers well. I think that's really his strength, and he's going to be able to hide behind those large humans, Sarkisian and Kyle Flood are recruiting. But, Tashard Choice, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. He brought in two running backs for official visits, and he goes 2 for 2. He went 2 for 2 last year. Where I think his strength really is as we've gotten to know him more as a recruiter through all these recruitments. He is unbelievable with kids, but he's better with parents. And if you're Cedric Baxter's family and you're Jarrett Gibson's family and you're sending your kid 1,200 miles away for college, you have to have a heck of a lot of trust in Tashard Choice and your position coach. And I think that is absolutely his strength as a recruiter.
Yeah, I mean, Choice goes into the state of Florida 2 years in a row, landing the #1 running back in the Sunshine State. Last year, it was Cedric Baxter Jr. out of the Orlando area. This year, Jarrett Gibson, he's originally from Gainesville, but he attends IMG Academy. What a backfield at Texas. But, Jerry, they're not done recruiting explosive players. Five-star athlete Terry Bussey was on campus. Now, we talked about him last week. RPM had him trending heavily toward A&M. Did Texas make up ground on this visit?
Yeah, I think they did make up ground. And what's interesting to me is, a couple of guys could come off the board Texas way before Terry Bussey makes a decision. So while Texas likes Terry Bussey, they like Aaron Hampton too, who's good out of Dangerfield, top 150 in the country. He's going to commit, I believe, July 7th. That's Bamberg, Texas. Parker Livingstone, a 4-star receiver out of Lovejoy. He's more of an outside guy. He's going to commit here in a few days, likely to Texas. And then Texas is very much in it for Ryan Wingo. So while Texas made up ground with Terry Bussey, it remains to be seen how hard and long they push in this recruitment if it goes way into the fall, closer to December. We'll have to see if Bussey's timeline changes.
Yeah, Jarrett Gibson wasn't the only commitment from the weekend. Texas landed a massive big body on the interior of the offensive line. Nate Kibble committed. Massive athletic interior lineman. But what does this mean for Daniel Cruz? Because you were on the show a couple times saying Daniel Cruz is one of the most important interior offensive linemen. Is Cruz still in the fold for Texas?
Absolutely. Texas want Daniel Cruz. They've really coveted him throughout the process. He's seen as a center at Texas. Kibble's seen as a guard. By the way, Kibble's 6'3", 315 with an 80-inch wingspan, 33 and 7/8-inch arms. I mean, that is extremely long for an interior player and one that's 6'3". But yeah, Daniel Cruz, I still think is trending Texas over Oklahoma. I don't think that recruitment will play out too much longer. Ohio State's probably number 3. What's interesting with that is Cruz and Kibble visited A&M the same weekend. And Kibble was not going to make a June official visit to Texas, but he moved up his timeline after that A&M visit. And he set up, he called Texas midweek and said, I want to make an official visit. Now I'm moving up my timeline. Texas brought him in, and that ended up being the place for him. So I think him and Cruz actually have a relationship here. I think they're friends. And so Cruz is definitely the #1 center on the board for the Horns.
All right. Well, that makes a little bit more sense. So one's going to play guard, one's going to play center. Daniel Cruz still a take for Texas. Moving off the edge to the tackle position, Daniel Calhoun, left tackle, was in Austin this weekend. He's close with Jarrett Gibson, who committed over the weekend. What is your sources saying about Daniel Calhoun after this official visit to Texas?
I think what's interesting is his host was Kelvin Banks, so the freshman All-American left tackle. So if anybody questions whether Daniel Calhoun's an inside or outside guy for Texas, he's a left tackle for Texas. Peyton Kirkland also assisted on that. I think I've said before, Josh, this would be the most unlikely win for Texas in recruiting, even since Sark's been there, even more so than Arch and some of the other guys, because Texas right now shouldn't go into Marietta, Georgia, and get a left tackle, premium position guy, top 100 type kid in the country when Georgia's on top of the college football world. His dad started his career at Alabama, then Tennessee's 3 hours from home. That's not one Texas should win right now. But I think they're running right there with Georgia. I still would pick Georgia until I'm proven wrong. But you're right, Daniel Calhoun, Jarrett Gibson, they took 3 official visits together. That was Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas. They are close. But really, look, it's an interesting recruitment because with Texas going into the SEC, there's no way, I don't care how many offensive linemen Georgia has committed or going to commit. Kirby and guys like Muschamp and Searles who coached at Texas, they don't want this kid going to Texas before Texas goes to the SEC. Not a premium position left tackle out of Atlanta. It's a fun recruiting battle to follow.
Yeah, it will be all the way to the end. Texas also hosted 4 IMG Academy recruits. We talked about Jarrett Gibson. He's the running back that committed, the number 2 back in the country. But what other prospects at IMG did Texas make a move with? I'm talking safety Jordan Johnson-Rebel. He was there. Defensive lineman TJ Lindsey and defensive lineman Jaden Jackson.
Yeah, I think Jordan Johnson-Rebel, I've had an RPM in for Texas for a while. I'm going to stick with that unless I'm proven wrong. I think Texas did nothing but help themselves. Of course, Jordan Johnson-Rebel's from Fort Worth and now is at IMG, so he's a Texas kid. The other 2 are interesting. TJ Lindsey's out of Bryant, Arkansas. He's going to be going down to IMG July 20th. He's new to IMG. I think Texas is right there because I think TJ's going to play in the SEC. I know he really likes Jason Taylor at Miami, but I just think he's going to end up in the SEC, and that puts Texas right there with Auburn and Texas A&M. I think the academic athletic combination at Texas is popular within TJ and his family, and that gives Texas a legit shot. Jaden Jackson, to me, is one of the more fascinating recruitments because I think he's a tremendous player, first of all. He grew up in Brownsburg, Indiana, so 191 miles from campus at Ohio State. That offer was big. Larry Johnson has had a relationship with him dating back to camps when the kid was younger. So on the surface, that should be Ohio State. And if I was forced to put in an RPM today, I'd probably put it in for Ohio State, but I'm holding off on that. He had a great visit to Texas. Cecilia Kana, Leona LaFau, some of those guys in the last class, I think, resonated with Jaden Jackson. Jaden's got family in the Houston area. I think what's interesting is, he visited Oklahoma midweek before Texas, and it never really got out. I think Oklahoma's in the picture as well. I think those 3 schools are really out in front of Florida and Miami right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what happens. I think this one will go – I don't think it'll go much longer early in July.
All right, well, another recruit that Texas probably had ground to make up heading into the visit. I want to check on what is happening after the visit. That's 5-star defensive lineman Dominic McKinley, the number 1 player in the state of Louisiana. Did Texas do enough over the weekend to have a shot at him?
Yeah, I think Texas has a shot here. I think the academic athletic combination, I think in speaking with Dominic and his family at the airport in Austin yesterday before they're headed back, I think that combination's pretty good for Texas. I'm not sitting here predicting he's going to Texas. Oklahoma's in it. He really likes Todd Bates, defensive line coach at Oklahoma. He's been up there 2 or 3 times. His little brother's part of the recruitment. Obviously, Darius has 8, 9 offers, all from the schools he's considering, Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, all those schools. What is interesting to me about Dominic's recruitment, though, Josh, is it looks like it has a longer runway. I mean, he's talking about deciding at the Under Armour All-America game. So this one has a lot of twists and turns left. But is Texas in position to be there in this recruitment? They absolutely are.
Yeah, kind of feel that way. If he takes this thing to distance and he's open at the end, I think Texas maybe gets him back on campus in the fall and has a shot there. All right, I'm thinking about Texas's secondary class, and you have a pick in for Jordan Johnson-Rebel, to Texas on the recruiting prediction machine. You have a pick in for 5-star corner Kobe Black. You have a pick in for 4-star corner Corian Gibson. So my question to you, Jerry, is does Selman Bridges have a spot in Texas secondary if the chips fall the way that you plan on seeing them fall?
Yeah, I think he has a spot. I think the question is, at some point the numbers game catches up with the school, right? And he has a spot at Texas. He can call and commit today if he wants. But the question is, Santana Wilson committing last week obviously was interesting because he's a corner. Adrian Wilson, NFL executive's son, longtime NFL safety. He's a corner. So that does start to get into the numbers game a little bit. Yeah, he has a spot at Texas, but all these kids aren't going to go to Texas. It doesn't work that way. We've been doing this way too long. In Texas, the way Bridges is, he's an interesting guy because he's 6'3.5", plays corner. He's got some versatility, so he could see himself at multiple positions. And I think that's kind of what Texas will have to sell a couple of these guys on in this cycle to really load up on. If you're going to take 6 defensive backs, it all has to be pretty much perfectly planned out. But he's got a spot, but the numbers game's going to catch up to Texas on somebody.
Talking about how good this class could be. I mean, if 5-star Kobe Black makes it in, just watch out. He was on campus this weekend. Yeah. Was there any feeling that maybe he was going to end his recruitment, or what is the timetable moving forward for 5-star Kobe Black?
Yeah, right now he has a early September official visit set to LSU. He's a midterm graduate, so I don't think this thing's going to December. It wouldn't shock me if he doesn't do something before his season. If he ends up at Texas, I think he does something before the season, right? And the interesting thing with his recruitments, we've been trying to kind of figure out who's second, who's third. And it's been very difficult to get that any traction on. He visited Oklahoma, he's visited Ohio State, and now Texas. I think Texas is a heavy favorite, but I think LSU's probably been the team running second. LSU's had a couple of defensive backs decommit recently, which I think plays into Wardell Mack, who is also on campus, and Kobe Black, and LSU's pursuit of those guys.
Yeah. I forgot about Wardell Mack. Wow. There are some really talented players on Texas's DB board. Okay. So there was a handful of commitments, but at some point, Texas quarterback commitment, Trey Owens, came out and said, not done. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Jerry, because Texas fans want me to do this. How many silent commitments were there this weekend that Texas is maybe holding back on right now?
I think from the last 2 weekends combined, Josh, the number is 6 or 7. Whew. I think there's 6 or 7 guys who've told Texas they're coming. And I think the month of July will have fireworks past the 4th for Texas.
Cool. So you think that some of these commitments will leak out over the next 2 to 3 weeks? And when I say leak out, I mean the recruit's going to announce it. Yeah,
absolutely. I definitely think so. I think Texas will add probably 5 to 7 guys to the class here in the month of July, if not more.
That will be big, almost as big as what happened over the weekend. Now, Colin Simmons was on campus, the 5-star edge out of Duncanville, Texas. And Jerry, you put in a pick on the recruiting prediction machine for Simmons to go to Texas. I got to ask you, is it imminent? Is it a gut feeling? Are you making more of a projection here? Like, what kind of pick was this for you on Colin Simmons?
Yeah, I think Texas is trending in a good direction with Colin Simmons and his mom. I think there's a lot of positive things with Texas. I think they've done a great job in this recruitment. The one thing going to Duncanville, Josh, I don't know, 5-6 times the last couple of years, is every time I got 2 things from I'm going to play in the SEC, and people around Duncanville said he's going to end up staying closer to home. And I think that's why when Colin was in Nashville, he said at Texas, LSU are the top 2, right? I know Miami made a strong run at it. But I think Texas has done a really good job in this recruitment. And I think this is something interesting with this recruitment. He was hosted by Anthony Hill, Jonte Cook, and Malik Muhammad. Texas has done a great job under Steve Sarkisian in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, an area that Tom Herman and the previous staff struggled in. They have a lot of juice along I-20 right now in recruiting. And those guys grew up together. They play youth football, basketball together. They run together. They're friends. So when those guys start coming into Texas and they like the experience, Anthony Hill's competing to be a starter as a freshman. Jonte Cook had a big touchdown in the spring game. There's a lot of things there in Texas' favor. And I'll throw one thing else out. Colin Simmons knows at Texas, he's a premium position guy they haven't landed since Sark's been there. he can be the alpha at that position and come in and make an impact like Kelvin Banks did at left tackle. Am I saying Texas is going to sign him over LSU? I'm not saying that. I am predicting Texas in a better spot than people think.
Well, what an exciting weekend. Gerry, you guys killed it on Inside Texas. How many views are on that visit thread as it stands this morning?
710,000 and almost 6,000 responses. I mean, if you're not on Inside Texas, hey, if you want to come over there and give me hell, I don't really care. But come on over to Inside Texas. It's a lot of fun. This thread has been a record breaker, that's for sure.
It has. And you can thank me for hundreds of those views because I was glued to Inside Texas all weekend, Gerry. Appreciate you stopping by the Inside Scoop today.
You got it, man.
All right. Thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that subscribe button for me. And remember to check out all the videos on the On3 YouTube page.